As someone who's grown up with Naruto as their first anime, I have a lot of questions and concerns for some of the decisions Kishimoto made about the story of Naruto, more specifically the Akatsuki. And I believe there is so much value and depth that was left on the writing block that the audience never will get to see it, and that's a damn shame. There have been multiple forums and discussions on what would have happened or what should have happened, but for this video I'm just going to go through each member of the Akatsuki of the main 10. So no Orochimaru and none of the guy before Kisame, and I am going to just go through each of what I consider to be either their greatest failure or their mistake in the writing sense on what I believe the direction the character should have gone. There is thousands of different ways you could write these characters, but this is going to be my own opinion on what I think is best. For starting this video, I will be going in order of chronological deaths, as I think that's the easiest way to go about this. So the first character we have up is Sasori. Sasori, right out of the gate, is one of my personal favorite Akatsuki members. I think his ability is so cool. I think his abilities were so interesting and so new to the series at the time that honestly I wouldn't change anything about him from his appearance, his first appearance, to his death to Sakura and Great Ichigo. I think that entire run was great. Introduction, his presence, abilities, backstory, even his death to Sakura, great. There's some people who would say that his death to Sakura is a bit dumb, but honestly, I think that was just good writing, and that unfortunately Kishimoto wasn't able to make Sakura a likable enough character to where people are actually liking the result of that battle. As unfortunately Sakura has such a bad reputation that any victory she does is just considered disrespect to the other character. I don't really take that as a con for Sasori, as more so Sakura's writing. Now, what I do have a problem with is Sasori's presence in the war arc. I think he was one of the biggest waste of potential the war had, because you throw Sasori and Chio for that matter, and they don't have their signature puppets in order to be puppet masters. You just make them throw trash Jonin around like toys, and then they get defeated. So my change would be for him to be one of the last Edo Tenseis left, because as a puppet master, the longer he stayed alive, the more puppets he could make. So you just have to let him be a threat again. Don't give him the sentimental talk he had about all of this. The moment with Deidara was cool, but I would get rid of it. And instead, I would keep Kabuto as him as being a cold-blooded killer, what he was at the start of the series before his redemption with feeling his parents' warmth. And I would let him collect all of the Edo Tensei and make them puppets, or all the dead Jonin. Like, dude, imagine, like, people like Neji died before the Edo Tensei was released, and then he just took Neji and made him a puppet. That would be such a cool concept for the war, and would have really showed the depravity in which we did. And then you could have Kankuro forced to do the same thing in order to combat Sasori, and then you can have, like, Kankuro and Gaara fight Sasori, and then Gaara finally seals him with the sand, as he's gotten so big to where Kankuro just can't puppet him, and then he just basically just lets himself die to go back to the Pure Lands. So if we were able to see the peak mastery of puppet jutsu, I think Sasori would have been a lot more memorable, and we really could have seen what he meant when he said that he could have taken down a country. Moving on, we have Hidan, who had a brilliant premise, but poor execution. See, Hidan is an interesting case because I like his design, I like his ability, and I like how he acts with Jashin, and especially his relationship with Kakazu. What I don't like is how forgettable he became. I mean, you look at Hidan, and you know, he was one of the first Akatsuki to die. He lost to Shikamaru, great death. But then that's it. He dies like episode 80, I think, or something. And the biggest thing he did was kill Asuma, who, retrospectively, nobody really cares for. So my simple fix would be, I would have loved if we knew more about Jashin. And maybe Hidan was kind of like a Kenpachi kind of title. And so where Hidan is a host, the title, not a person. So sure, Shikamaru kills Hidan, But then during the war arc, after, a couple of arcs, Hidan comes back. Looks different, but same ability, still in the Akatsuki, same weapon, everything like that. Goes by Hidan, praises Jashin, but, he's a different guy. Because, obviously Jashin's a god, and Hidan was Jashin's most avoided follower. What if there was just another devout follower who could gain the powers of Jashin into becoming Hidan? I think letting him keep the title of Immortal Man, and then throughout history you had books about Hidan fighting various Kage. Maybe he assassinated like the first Kazekage or something like that to really show his fear throughout the time. I think that would make Hidan a really cool character. And then not to mention, when you have Boruto, you can have Hidan there. And then if you want to go extra deep, if Jashin was like an exiled Otsutsuki, maybe Hidan works for the Otsutsuki that way. Or because he's exiled, Hidan actually now works with Boruto to try to stop the Otsutsuki. There's so many different ways to go. Every time Hidan dies, you can do something else. And I think that would be just honestly make him so much cooler, more memorable, and all in all a better character. Following Hidan, we have Kakuzu, who I think is one of the more simple changes, honestly, and let's just make him more threatening and intimidating and all around more horrifying. This dude literally rips people's hearts out and to being his own hearts, and then he steals their jutsu like Sasori does. So, you make him the scariest Akatsuki, with that, his tendrils are super interesting, can coil around people, all this other stuff. He literally becomes like a Frankenstein's monster when he has his appendages ripped off from each other, only being hanged out by the coil. Just make him more horror themed, honestly. And then, you can still die by the Russian Shuriken, but if you had him breaking people's bones, dismembering people, I get it's a shonen, but off camera and all that, that would have been so cool. Chainsaw Man's shonen jump and things like that, just stuff like that. Awesome. Just make him that intimidating presence. So, it took a Russian Shuriken to take him down, make it that is like the thing that you do for him. But yeah, besides that, wouldn't really change anything else. Dying to the Russian Shuriken's fine. His backstory's fine. His design, make it maybe a little bit more interesting, but that's about it. Datara. This is the first one that's pissed me off. Without a shadow of a doubt, biggest mistake was fighting Sasuke. That entire fight was trash. Terrible. There is not a planet in this foreseeable universe where Datara should not have killed Sasuke. So, easy fix, never happened. The fight did not happen, or the fight happened, ended in a draw where both of them walked away relatively unscathed, because C0 atomizes everything in the blast radius. Sasuke hiding in Manda would still kill Sasuke because it atomizes Manda and Sasuke together. So, what would I change? I would make the fight a draw. Still happens, show Sasuke's skill, how powerful Datara is, and then Datara gets away. I would then keep Datara alive for the war arcs. That special moment he had with Sasori doesn't happen because he's alive. And then, the same thing, he flies Kabuto around on, the dragon, but I'll change one event. If you remember, the 10-tailed Biju bomb blew up Shinobi headquarters. What I would do, I would take that away from the 10-tails, and I would have Datara C0 the headquarters. How badass if Datara blew up the headquarters, Sprout and his nonsense, art is an explosion. I have the biggest amount of people who are going to be, witnessing his greatest feat yet, everything like that. Maybe the headquarters took him down and then he became C0. It still had all the top, Jonin, intellectual things like that, Could have done something like that, added some more people to the headquarters, some more fighters. So, Datara's impact was that much better. But then you have him blow up. And then, that would have been epic. And then the C0, he dies, permanently gone, doesn't get resurrected or anything. And then that was Datara's ending. And when you look at Datara's death, you don't look at it as, oh, well, he literally just blew himself up, didn't do anything. You look at it as, dude, he killed Shikamaru's dad. He killed Choji's dad. He killed Ino's dad. He blew up all of the intelligence. He played a massive part in the war. But, we're never going to get that, and that's kind of sad. Itachi. Itachi is going to be one of the more controversial ones because He's one of the fan favorites, but I think it's pretty a simple change. It's not really a change. It's more so what I would like to be added. And that's just, I want to know where his sickness came from, honestly, because it feels like it was just a plot device that never got shown. If we saw like an event, or if we knew, he was chronically ill as a child, or, there was a fight where he got poisoned by like Shino's clan or things like that. Something like that, just to, kind of further emphasize why he's sick. I think it would have been a lot less of a plot device and more so just an added addition to his character that would have made everything else fall into place. And the only other thing I can think of was how he got the Totsuka blade and the Yatamir, because those again seemed like random stuff that was used for the sake of making Itachi stronger than actual things that make sense on why Itachi would have it. Like just a Itachi story on how those came to be, would have been nice. But besides that, I think none of his core traits should change. His dialogue, the aura, the abilities, his ambition, how he went about everything. I think all of that should stay the same. My favorite Akatsuki, Nagato. Unlike some people, or unlike most, I think his Talk no Jutsu with Naruto was honestly very well done. So much so, I don't think I would change how he lost. And because I think if anybody would have Talk no Jutsu Nagato, it would have been Naruto. And I think how everything fell into place was beautiful writing. Now, I do have one change I would do for the character, and that's I think the Rinne rebirth was a little bit of bullshit. And the way I mean is, Nagato was able to resurrect an entire village just for his life, which I don't think is correct. And then, Obito was able to survive the Rinne rebirth because of Black Setsu holding on to him, and, the Hashirama cells, I think. I could be wrong. And then he gets to resurrect Madara, who can then become the Ten Tails Jinchuriki because he's alive. So I think the Rinne rebirth should have consequences, besides the user dying. Just something along those lines. Because I think there's too many ass pulls in Naruto, and I just need something else to try to do a cop out. Like prime example. The Rinne rebirth that Nagato did, it could have still resurrected like Kakashi and, people of that. But then you can show that like half of the Leaf Village is still dead. And then when you go up to the war arc, you can add more buildup to it by being like, we don't got the soldiers. And then, other villagers can try calling them out. And then that can cause some conflict that gets resolved. Something like that to really show that like Pain had this impact instead of just everything was fine in the end. And then Yamato could rebuild the village because he had wood style. I think that's really all I ask for. So yeah, that would be my change for Nagato or Pain. Kisame is someone who we know both a extraordinary amount of knowledge on, and then at the same time we know nothing. My thing would be, why the hell is Kisame a shark? We don't know that. That is unknown knowledge to the public. We know why he got the sword. We know how he joined the Akatsuki. His involvement with the Blood Mist village, his relationship with Yagura, his undying loyalty to the Akatsuki, everything like that. But just why is he a shark? That's all I ask for. Kisame should have had more fights. I think he should have been more brutal with him being a shark and him being the tailless Jinchuriki. I also, my second point was, I also think showing more feats of the ninja swordsman, the seven swordsmen of the mist, would have done a lot for Kisame's character. If you had more feats of Samehada besides just when Kisame used it, I think it would have been a lot better. Because you actually see the history of Samehada and how important it is that Kisame, an Akatsuki member, now has that item. Something like that. Just any kind of lore on how he became a shark, whether that be like NC Hammer or some other people do, like, him being a potential shark sage, which isn't the case because then he would have had nature energy, but, or, just something like that. Maybe just like a failed experiment to be like a hybrid, just something would have been nice. But, his death is probably the best in the Akatsuki. His demeanor is really fun. His shark form is really fun. And I think his epithet as the Tailless Jinchuriki was super great. Conan, I think, needs the most amount of changes because she really did not have a character at the end of the day. The only thing she had going for her is her backstory with Nagato and her fight with Obito. And all of my talking points are going to be her fight with Obito because that was dumb. So I think most of us can agree that the Izanagi and Izanami were really big ass pulls to help Obito and Madara, do their plans. So I guess, for the sake of not changing the story permanently, we keep it. But I think it would have been a lot better if, because Conan was, on Naruto's side, what if Obito taking Nagato's eyes was an entire arc? Like, that was a major deal. Because he needed it for the Jinchuriki and all that, for the Edo Tensei Jinchuriki and to control everything. So, if he had to go in the midst of the village, and, Conan teamed up with the Leaf, and, they all had to try and stop Obito from getting it, but, he was teleporting all around the place, making it hard, but he needs Conan to fess up on where the eyes are. That could have been really interesting. And then it would have been even more interesting if, because Conan had the same prep she did, but she couldn't use it because Naruto was there. If they tried to fight him, but they lost, and then he put Conan in a genjutsu, and then before she died, she activated the bombing, where, Naruto could run away while Conan held on to Obito, and then that's when he used Izanagi. So what I think that would do for Conan is not only would you have more dialogue and screen time for her with Naruto and all that, it'd be more fighting, and then her death would again have meaning like Deidara's, where she died to save Naruto, even though Obito still won, but her death, you could say, she's the reason Naruto is alive and where he is today. So I think making that something would have been a lot better than just her dying for nothing, really, because she just lost and then fessed up with the Eyes Word because of a genjutsu. Almost to the end, we have Obito. Now, he is the one I struggled with the most, because I don't really know there's anything I would change for him. His backstory is great. His abilities are some of the most interesting with Kamui. His death I liked, with him telling Naruto to become Hokage. I think everybody, felt something in that moment. His fight with Kakashi is, in my opinion, the number one fight in the entire series. I love hand-to-hand combat, and that fight being entirely that was much needed in a time where mecha, Kurama cloaks and Susanos were most of the fights. His entire Toby personality was so fun, but if I had to choose anything, I would want the misconception for why he started war to be ironed out, with his message being more direct. Because unfortunately, there's a lot of fans who are under the narrative that the war was for Rin and that he still loves her, and that this is also, he can have his perfect world where Rin is his girlfriend and, everything like that. But that's not why. He stated why, but I guess nobody bothered to listen to it because they already had this misconception from what happened earlier. Because it was clear that he just thought the world was hell, the world was corrupt in its core, and that there was nothing to save in the world because his sensei died, Kakashi killed the girl, everything like that. Everything that went wrong. There's countless war where children were being sent to die for corrupt politicians, and, perfect Tsukiyomi, the perfect world, was the only way that everybody could have their happy ending. I think that is very misconceptioned with Obito. So if that point was able to get across more, I think that'd be better. Runner-up, only thing I could think of, make the reveal of him being Obito a little bit harder to figure out. But that's kind of a nothing burger, since I don't think anybody really cared that it was obvious, because just the reveal itself was good. But yeah, that would be my main change. Zetsu. The absolute worst thing to ever grace this story, Zetsu. Where do I even start with him? How he killed Madara, maybe? That should have never happened. I only said one change. I'm going to do multiple with him. Him being this genius guy who's done everything for 1,000 years so Kaguya could come back. And then, it all boils down to him punching Madara in the chest. No. Let's not do that. So what I think should have happened, I'm fine with him being Kaguya's will. But instead of him betraying Madara and then releasing Kaguya, Kaguya should have been foreshadowing to Boruto, where Kaguya makes her appearance to where Momoshiki made his appearance, and then that's how that fight goes. They fight Kaguya, because then Naruto and Sasuke are adults. That fight makes more sense than somehow giving Kakashi both Mangekyo Sharingans where he could do the Susanoo even though Obito was dead, because that doesn't make any sense, because that form never really should have existed, and then the whole reverse harem jutsu thing was kind of dumb. So I think point and simple, Madara outsmarted Zetsu, and then Zetsu runs away, gets out of the war, and, he does a new path. He either reforms a new Akatsuki, or he does something interesting where he's able to find out a new way to bring Kaguya back in Boruto, because clearly all the Otatsuki are back. Maybe he works with them to unseal Kaguya or something like that. You never know. But I think that would have been so much more fun if all the Otatsuki stuff was left for Boruto and all the ninjas were in Naruto. I think that would have been something that was a very rushed with the ending of Shippuden, and I think Kishimoto would have definitely wrote it a lot differently if he could have, because I think everyone agrees Madara should have been the final villain. They should have beaten him using the same modes they used to beat Kaguya, and then same way in the show, after they defeat Madara, Hashirama comes up, they have their final speech as Madara finally dies, and then that would have been the perfect ending. So yeah, the Zetsu and his involvement was terrible, and almost everything should have changed. I was thinking of including Madara in this video, but honestly, I would just write more of how trash Zetsu was, and the only change I would do would be to give him his MS abilities, like how he should have had, so I won't really go into it as it's kind of repetitive. I'm glad I made the video. I hope you all enjoyed my opinions on this, because this was certainly a ride, and I would be really interested if you all left your thoughts and what you would like to see in the comments, because right now I'm interested in talking about Jujutsu Kaisen with one of my friends. It'd either be all the arcs ranked from worst to best, or talking about specific characters. I'm thinking about Toji. If something like that interests you guys, or if there was some topic you would like for me to talk about, subscribe, comment, just make sure you get the voice out so I can see y'all. I hope you all are ready for what's next. Anyway, this has been so fun to finally make. I've been wanting to make videos for so long, so I'll talk to you guys in the next one. See ya.
Later.